I don't know if you ever saw this like 2x2 matrix of like the most successful people, right? So on the x-axis, you have likability, and on the y-axis you have competence. And they say like if you're top right hand corner, so like high likability, high competence, those are the most successful people. But if you were to choose, if you can only have one of those attributes, they say that likability beats competence 10 out of 10. Because if you're just an asshole, people don't want to deal with you, right? Like even if you're competent. But if you're likable, it's like you know, there's a lot of trust that can be built. There's rapport, right? There's friendship, and just people just like to work with people that they like. It's just, you know, common
Human nature.
Human nature, exactly.
Yeah, and the Navy SEALs, what they do, similar to that, is trust.
Trust is huge.
Trust is beyond competence.
Yeah.
They want the guy that they can trust with their wives.
In their lives. Like if I'm getting shot at by, you know, enemies, like I want to know somebody's gonna like tell me like, hey, you know, 5 o'clock or whatever, right? Like it's big.
Big time.
Or if you get hit, you want somebody to like help you, bring you somewhere safe. They're not just gonna leave you behind, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're kicking it off already here, aren't we, folks? Ladies and gentlemen, Peihu Wang, welcome.
Thank you.
It wasn't always Peihu.
It wasn't. No.
No. Word on the street is when you moved to America, you had a different name.
I did, yeah.
Jacob or Stephen or Michael.
It was actually Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Yeah.
Jimmy Wang.
Yeah, it was.
And tell us about what happened to that name.
Yeah, so when I moved to America, I was told you should adopt an American name so that you can assimilate to the culture a little easier. Peihu is not the easiest name to pronounce, but I just think it's 2 syllables. It's pretty straightforward.
It's easy to me. Peihu.
Right.
Yeah.
So I had that name probably until college, until one day I just was like, I just don't resonate with Jimmy. You know, it's just like, imagine if you're Greg and then you change your name to like Steven, and people start calling you Steven, and you don't really assimilate with that name.
Yeah, it's not me.
So I was like, I'm just going to go back to my original name. And I think that was a big turning point for me because you know, coming to America, you know, living in a place that was predominantly Caucasian, I just felt really proud to be who I am and my ethnicity and all that.
Because you're Japanese.
Chinese. But I get that a lot. I get that I look Japanese.
No, I just made mental error.
Okay.
Yeah. Chinese.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know many Chinese people. Truly. Yeah. I think you're rare. Right?
Sure. I think we're all rare.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I know more Korean people than I do Chinese people. More Filipino people than I know Chinese people. What do you think that is? Why do you think that is? As far as in America, who do you know who has the highest population in America?
I don't.
No? Well, yeah, that's a big maneuver, regardless, to be bold and change your name back, right?
Yeah. I just think one is like just staying true to who you are. You know, just like your identity. I think that's really important. You know.
So let's talk a little about the way I would like to go about this is talk a little bit about where you're at today. For my New York accent, not today, today. Yeah, what have you been doing in Austin, my man? What's been happening in your life?
Yeah.
Let's talk about work.
Let's talk about work. Okay.
Yeah.
So work-wise,
You're an expert.
I am an expert. So work-wise, I work in mergers and acquisitions. So whenever there's a transaction, we're the advisors, right? Strategic advisors, either on the buy side or the sell side. And we advise on whether we think this particular company is a good investment opportunity, if it's a private equity company. And then we also advise on the complexity of, you know, either it's a carve-out or an integration. So
What's carve-out?
Carve-out is essentially when a business is selling a portion of their company. So like imagine if Amazon was selling just their like Alexa, right? So that they would need to carve that piece of the business out of their bigger business.
Would they sell it off, the Alexa line?
I don't think so.
No? Or they just get rid of it?
Actually, Alexa is actually not profitable, so maybe, but then you would have to also find a buyer that would want to take on a piece of business that's not profitable.
So companies don't just come to you to say, "Hey, I want to buy another company. What do you think?" But they also say, "Hey, can you look at our company and tell us what's working and what's not working?"
Yeah, I think that's the value creation piece. So if you're looking at if you're looking at private equity companies, they're portfolio companies, right? So in the past, the private equity company would buy a company in an attractive industry, do some financial engineering, and be able to sell that company 5-6 years down the road without much operational improvement, just because they're riding that tidal wave, right? Just like if you want to talk about real estate, it's like you buying a piece of real estate, making zero modification, and just riding that zip code in the appreciation.
Yeah.
Now, what if you can buy that home, make improvements like redo the kitchen, redo the flooring, put in, a new bathroom.
Paint it.
Yeah, paint it a different color, right? And that adds way more value, right?
Yeah.
So private equity is similar to home flipping. They just flip business.
Is it?
Yeah, so they buy a business that's a little bit distressed, or, a good, solid business, but with room for improvements. They make the improvements, and then they sell it for whatever X, whatever the IRR that they're intending to sell it for.
Internal rate of return. Yeah, IRR.
Yeah.
You gotta watch that jargon. You know what I'm saying? So we had a past guest on here named Darius Mershizadeh.
Yeah.
Okay? He's in private equity, and he recently raised $240 million. Will that be helpful for you to converse with him?
Absolutely.
It would?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll connect you guys.
I appreciate that.
Piece of cake. Very good. So you're doing this, and you're traveling the country to go. You're on business trips often, it seems like. You were just in Miami, right?
Yeah.
You went, what was the other city?
Tennessee.
Tennessee?
I was in Tennessee.
Yep,
Yeah.
Nashville. So what do you do when you go on these trips?
Two purpose. One is like for our team to meet, because we're across the country. So it's for us to be able to get a chance to meet in person, to have face-to-face meetings, talk about the strategy of the carve out right now. Because right now I'm working on a advanced manufacturing company that's selling for their non-core business units.
What does it mean, advanced?
Advanced manufacturing. It's like anything that you think about that's complex to build. So you're thinking like HVAC, cars is part of advanced manufacturing. Anything that requires like a lot of assembly, supply chain, logistics, things like that.
Okay.
So one is just for our internal team to meet, right? To be able to have face-to-face time, build the relationship. And then the second part is to meet with the client. So we'll have some client meetings, talk about how things are going. Maybe if we have some workshops. Sometimes there's buyer meetings, right? So we'll find a common middle ground for seller, buyer to meet, and we might facilitate that workshop, right? And it could be just understanding the day one readiness. So day one readiness is essentially when the deal closes on day one, what are the things that you need to do for that business to be running? Because you're essentially handing over the entity to the buyer. So you're handing over the keys. But because the business, if it's a carve out, it's super entangled, you just need to make sure that on day one it's going to be ready to function. Like the website is going to transfer over. There's a lot of things like logistically that needs to happen.
Dang. That's a big deal.
It's a big deal, yeah.
To pass the baton from one entity to another.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay.
Just think about when you're selling a home. Just think about all the things you need to do to transfer that home to another person, right?
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And imagine that being a business.
Dude, I'm just trying to wrap my head around that. I mean, like if I'm going to sell my real estate company today, to show them all the systems that we use, how we follow up with people, that's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, are you able to say that you were a part of X acquisition, specific names with companies? Are you able to say that?
I'd rather not talk about it, but I can say like I can talk about it in general terms. Like I can say like, oh, I was part of a global semiconductor merger. It was like $21 billion, right? I can talk in those terms, but they typically don't like when we like drop client names.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Now, when you get paid, is that salary? Do you get commission with the acquisitions? What does that look like in your space generally? Like guys like and girls like you doing what you do.
Yeah. So we have a base salary, and a bonus is based on, the amount of revenue we're generating, and those are usually from fees, from advisory fees on transactions.
Mm-hmm.
So, last year when the market was dried up because private equity companies weren't doing as many deals, right? Interest rates went up, right? So cost of debt is going up. So most of the private equity companies, when they fund deals, they use debt. Just like real estate is used on a lot of real estate and private equity market actually kind of go hand in hand. So
Yeah.
a lot less real estate volume, right? So depending on the amount of money the firm generates, that's kind of like how we get paid. And the bonus is like a big part of our comp.
Yeah. Ooh, that's fun.
Yeah.
So you got some skin in the game.
Yeah. I guess that's one way to put it.
Yeah, you're getting that sweet commish.
Yeah.
No, that's from a TV show. I forget which one, but it's a classic line. Trust me, sweet commish. I don't remember where it's from.
Oh.
So, all right. How long you been in Austin?
2 years.
2 years. Where'd you come from?
I was in Boston before that.
Boston.
Boston.
Beantown?
Boston.
Really?
Yeah.
How long you live in Boston for?
Oh, like over 15 years. So wow.
You moved here from China.
I moved to Montreal from China. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Dude, what? Those are complete opposites, it sounds like.
Yeah. It
Right?
was. It was a great experience though.
Yeah.
I mean, coming from an Eastern culture, then experiencing Western culture, having to learn French, and just being able to, adapt, very quickly at a young age. I think that has helped me like throughout my entire life, just the adaptability of being in a new environment and picking up a new language, right? So I did that again. So when I moved from Montreal to the States when I was 12, I had to learn English, right? I had to make new friends. So I think that adaptability was like instilled in me because I moved around quite a bit.
You can see that. Someone that knows you on a personal level, you can see your adaptability come into play because you're pretty you mend in well with any environment that you step into. I remember one time we were at Hotel Proper Lounge, and then you just sat in the middle of these two girls that were friends on like a girlfriend date or whatever. They're hanging out with each other. You just sat in the middle of them and you just started striking up conversation with them.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I remember. I remember. I was right across from you.
Okay.
And they loved your company. It was cool.
I'm good company,
Yeah. Look, not everybody's got that.
Yeah.
And I think that your worldly experience is a huge factor in that, for sure.
Yeah. I think, being able to connect with people and just being able to talk to people on a genuine basis, right? I think that's, you get that by traveling. You get that by, talking to different people from all walks of life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And right now you're on an interpersonal journey. It sounds like, based off what we talked a little bit about before we hit the record button. You're talking about being particular. Why don't we go ahead and open up that for a moment? Being specific. You're talking about what you eat, who you invest time with.
Yeah.
Right? What you do for your activities. Where'd this come from? Why this shift in your life?
Yeah. I think I'm a realist. So for me, each day as we get older, that's one day less that we have on the earth.
Yeah.
And because we're not here for a finite amount of days, the quicker you can realize that intentionality is actually very powerful, the quicker you can start making changes to how you live, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, it's all about being intentional, right? So I used to not be always intentional about the people I hang out with, the food that I put in my body, the alcohol that I was consuming. But as I got older and as I start to be more intentional, it's really about being very specific about, who are the people I want to spend time with? What are the people that inspire me? Even just the content that you consume on social media, like what are the content that you consume on social media, right?
Exactly.
Again, just living life very intentionally.
What kind of people do you want to hang out with?
Good question. I'll break
Smaller
them in
vacuum.
two buckets because I think they're not always like connected.
Yep.
Sometimes they are connected, but sometimes they're not. So I'll say one category of people that you can learn on from a business standpoint, right? People that are doing better than you, people that can really help you. I was talking to one person and he was telling me about, I live in Puerto Rico for half the year because in Puerto Rico you only pay 4% corporate tax, right? So then my buddy and I actually took a trip to Puerto Rico in March to just check it out. It's like, is this a place that we would want to live in the future if we ever start our own company, right? So I think just by being around people like that can give you ideas and inspire you to see things differently, to do things differently, right? So I think that's really important. Yeah, just thinking outside the box, right? How to optimize your taxes, what investment strategies you should be looking at, right? These are all things that you don't really know. And I think just educating yourself, just being able to gain new knowledge from people, I think that is like the most important thing in life. Just constantly learning from people who are smarter than you. So that's one bucket. The other bucket is just people who are great people, right?
Yeah.
That operate with a very good moral compass, and you can learn a lot from them, right? So I have a friend from business school. His name's Lucas. I do a talk with him maybe weekly, bi-weekly, and they're always very inspirational. And we always talk about life. We talk about how to handle different situations, people, and it's just, the biggest takeaway every time I talk to him is like, you can always do things more gracefully. Even when somebody slights you, even when somebody does something that doesn't jive with you, you can always tell that person in a respectful and a graceful way, right? And that's where that comes from. It's like, how can I be a more well-rounded person, but not just like I'm going to be ultra successful, but how do I also scale and become a great person?
The humanity piece.
If that's one of your goals, right? It is for me. That's why I put big importance in not just the success part, but also what kind of person I want to be.
And some of the most successful people, in my experience, are the most humble people. Really.
Absolutely.
Of course, you get your one-offs and they're arrogant, but for the most part, they're the most humble because they know exactly what it takes to get to where they are, and it's not easy.
100%. And the thing is, any self-made person will tell you this. And I remember watching a speaker, and they said, like, any self-made person is humble because in order for you to have made it somewhere, somebody had to give you an opportunity. Somebody will have to say yes to you. Just doors just open for you if you're not a good person. And I mean that. Like, you can't be going around being an asshole and expect doors to open for you. So for people who are successful and are self-made, people had to help them.
Yeah.
Like, you don't just get from zero to hero without any help. So they had to have mentors. They had to have guidance. Doors had to be open for them. And it's impossible to do that if you're just a shitty person.
What kind of doors were open for you from somebody else?
That's another good question. A lot of doors. I remember when I was working at this company, I really wanted to do, when I graduated college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So in college, I majored in psychology. Thought I wanted to be someone who helps people with family issues, addiction, all that. But then when I got into the real world, I had some friends who worked in finance. So I was like, hey, maybe I should get into finance. And I remember I was working at this company, and I was working in the vendor relations department. So, making sure that the relationship between my company and our vendors were good, like contractual rates, all that. And then I knew there was a position that was going to be opened up in finance because someone was leaving. So I remember asking the hiring manager, hey, would you consider me for that role? And I remember talking to her, and we had multiple conversations. And she took a chance on me. She's like, I know you don't have a background in finance, but you seem smart. You seem like you're willing to put in the work. So yeah, we'll give you a shot. So that's just one example, but there's many other ones. And for sure, I wouldn't be able to be where I'm at if these kind of opportunities and these doors, people that really took an investment in me, right? Like I remember in another company I worked at, I remember there was someone who really just looked out for me. You're just saying, hey, you can't always communicate this way. You can't be always this direct. You got to work on, being more graceful with your communication.
Yeah.
right? Like if you want to be a leader, you have to lead in a way that inspires people, not instill fear of people. Like if you don't do this, you're gonna get in trouble. But more like, hey, let's do this so we can all win.
Yeah, so that's the difference between molding and cutting, okay? And when we take an aggressive approach with people, we cut them, and that's not good.
Yeah.
Whereas a leader, a good leader, in my opinion, knows how to mold people, and the way you do that is through delicate interactions.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think about doing it this way instead? Instead
Yeah.
of, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you doing it like that? Are you serious?
Yeah. Scolding
Right?
versus inspiring them to do it differently.
So you've been in Austin 2 years. Who here has opened doors for you?
Wow, that's another great question. I mean, socially, I mean, there's a lot of people that open doors for me. Like you, for instance, you introduced me to a lot of great people, right? Jake, I think I met Eli through you. You know, Chris. It doesn't just have to be professionally, but socially. Like there's a lot of people. You know, you meet one person, they introduce other great people. So I don't forget that. You know.
And you know, I think it's interesting that we're almost trained to where we hear the term "open the door," we automatically think for business or financial success, when really that's only a small sliver of the pie.
It is.
And I think that our quality of life is dictated highly by who we surround ourselves with. Think about the conversations you get to have with good, upstanding people, as opposed to somebody that's kind of negative or pessimistic.
You ever heard that say? Some people say it's the journey. Is it the journey or the destination? And some people say it's neither. It's the company.
What? That's a good one. I've never heard that, but that's good.
That's a good one.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Who told you that? Where'd you read that? Instagram?
Instagram. Probably Instagram, actually. I don't know. I probably saw it like pop up on one of those like inspirational quote things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Now, what else have you? You're a single guy right now.
Yeah.
You going on any dates lately?
Yeah.
What kind of dates?
What kind of dates?
What kind of dates?
Is there a different kind of dates?
See, I did it. I left it open-ended on purpose to see how you'd answer it.
I don't even know how to answer that question. Like, what kind of dates are there?
Sorry, I'm just having a
Well, I
little
mean,
fun.
a date, right, is just an opportunity for you and the other person to, like, get to know each other.
Yeah.
And see if there's some kind of chemistry.
Yeah.
See if there's some kind of compatibility.
You know, maybe tell us where because you're a leader in the date when you ask a girl out, right?
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
Where do I go?
Yeah.
I mean, just first date.
Sure.
First date, keep it simple. Just somewhere where you can talk.
Smart.
You know, somewhere like
Not
don't do movies.
No.
I mean, comedy shows is good. It can be okay. Like if you do it, you know, if you do like a dinner and then a comedy show, because like you're laughing, you get endorphins are going, right? Like you're in a good mood. Like usually when you're in a good mood, you're more open, right? Share more things. Yeah. But yeah, just talk. Just see if you have things in common. Just see if you vibe, right? See if there's something deeper.
How's a single guy in Austin meet women these days?
The best way is just organically, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So where do you go to meet these organic women?
When you go about your life, if you see somebody that you feel you want to get to know, just go approach her and just say, "Hey, thought you looked interesting." Like,
Exactly.
I think that's the best way.
You're keeping it simple, right?
Yeah, because like with online dating nowadays, there's just so many things that people can do. You know, there's people who pay for these photo altering apps. So you show up and they don't even look like the pictures. You know, maybe you show up and the way they sound is not something. It's very pleasant, and you're like, oh, I have to listen to this person for the rest of my life that sounds like this. So there's just a lot of unknown. Of course, you can like screen for that. You can do a phone call beforehand, see if you vibe and things like that. But I think organically is way better because then you get firsthand data on how they respond. You know, how their style is, right? Because I think that communicates a little bit about who they are externally. Their posture.
How they carry themselves.
The way they respond.
Eye
contact. There's so many data points that you can't get just based on looking at like someone's profile, which is like their dating resume, pretty much.
Data points spoken like a true.
And the thing about the online resume, the dating resume, is that it's curated specifically in the way that they want.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Versus if you see somebody in the wild, right, you can just see them as they are. Right.
Well said. Well said. Okay. We don't got to talk about dating anymore. Thanks for enlightening us. Now, let's take it way back, okay? We're going to hop on the magic school bus and throw it back to China.
All right.
What was it like growing up in your house? Do you remember your first house? Do you remember what it looked like?
Yeah, I remember. It was we had an apartment. My grandparents lived in a small, like, 3-bed apartment right in downtown Shanghai. I remember my grandmother used to take me on walks after dinner, and she loved to walk and digest food, and I kind of kept that as a habit even as I got older. And I remember as a kid, I was extremely curious kid. And my grandparents used to tell me that we would walk by and there was a bike repair, like a bike tire repair place. And I remember they said, like, I would stop and be so curious how they can repair a bicycle tire that's punctured. I would just, like, be so intrigued at that young age to figure out, like, how the hell did they patch this thing up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny what we remember as kids.
Yeah.
For you, it's being curious about a bike tire.
Well, it's just one thing that they told me.
Yeah.
They're like, we would just walk by these things and you wouldn't leave until, like, you saw how they would, like, do it.
Oh, that's good.
And I was like, really? I was like, okay. Well, I was like, that doesn't sound too far from the truth because I am a pretty curious person even to this day. I ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
No, it's good, though.
And
Really
I'm just
good.
curious by nature.
So what was it like? It was your parents? Both parents?
Yeah, actually, my parents left for Montreal when I was little. So I actually didn't meet them till I was 6.
Okay.
So I was raised by my grandparents until I was about 6.
Both grandparents?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any brothers and sisters?
No.
Wow.
Single.
Okay.
Only child.
So your grandparents up until you're 6 are raising you.
Yeah.
And one of your favorite memories is going for walks after you eat with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure most of the time when you're living with your grandparents, it's a different dynamic than when you live with your actual parents because the discipline is
100%,
different, right?
100%.
It's a little bit more sweeter, for
Much
lack of a better
sweeter.
term, right?
Much sweeter.
Now, you didn't go to any schooling up until 6 years old.
I think I went to kindergarten. Yeah, like kindergarten, maybe elementary.
Maybe
Yeah.
when you were 6, maybe you went to kindergarten.
It's such a distant.
Yeah.
I just don't remember.
Shanghai,
Yeah.
dude. A side note: is it true that they have social credit scores, where if you cross a crosswalk, and it's not a green light, it deducts points off your social credit score?
I don't know if that's true, but I did read that they're thinking about implementing something like that to kind of, like, again, it's the control aspect. They want to control people to act a certain way. I don't know if the social score is the best way to do it, right? Because then you're putting fear in people and trying to do the thing that we talked about, which is, like, scold and put fear versus, like, just inspiring people to just say, hey, we can do our part, be a good citizen.
Yeah, all that fear, that can cause rebellion.
And it can cause rebellion for people who just really don't want to do that, right? It's like, fuck the government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty tight. So you're 6 years old, and it's time to move. Holy crap. How do they have that conversation with you? Hey, you're not going to live with us anymore. You're going to go meet your parents.
They really didn't. They just say, hey, your parents, because we grew up really poor, so my parents couldn't bring me with them when they moved to Montreal. My mom was, I think, finishing her master's and PhD, and my dad, I think, was at the time doing his master's. So they didn't really have, they couldn't really take me with them. They just didn't have the means or the time. So once they got a little bit more established, then that's when they said, hey, come on over.
That's pretty hardcore. That's hardcore. I can imagine having a kid and then saying, all right, see you in 6 years. Wow.
Yeah, I think they left when I was like 4 or 5 months old.
You don't really remember them?
Yeah, I don't really remember.
No. Holy smokes. Whoa. I'm wrapping my head around that. I'm putting myself in their shoes, right? What that's got to be like. That's a tough decision to make. Or was it tough? Did they ever tell you about that? How they made that decision?
We never really talked about it, but I just think that they probably just had to do what was best for them. Just like money was tight, they couldn't really bring me with them.
Right.
They had to figure out living in a whole different country different culture, learning a new language, just a lot of pressure. So I understand.
Yeah.
Right.
So they moved to pursue degrees, to get
to pursue a better life,
to get the jobs, to get the better life.
Yeah.
Oh, holy mackerel, man! That's something else. Wow. So you reconnected with them when you were 6.
Yeah.
In Canada.
Yeah.
What was it like when you ran up to them? Do you remember that moment?
Vaguely.
You might not have ran
Vaguely.
up to them. You might have been saying.
Vaguely, but I was really close with my grandparents, right? Because they raised me when I was 6, and your primal years are very important.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who raise you in your primal years are also very important. That's why I'm very, very close with my grandparents.
Yeah.
I'm not as close with my parents. But I also think just there's other things, parenting style, them being in a Western culture, trying to raise me like we were in the Eastern culture, right? There's a lot of clashes, and I just think that they didn't really fully understand me as a person, right? So I think that created a lot of conflicts.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you moved here, were your grandparents with you?
Yeah, they came for like 6 months. I think that's like the amount of time the visa allows you to be here, and then they had to go back.
Yeah, so but it was all for the transition aspect.
Yeah, it was.
They can probably
literally
tell your parents, hey, this is what's going on, this is why, this is what he's like, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then it's just you and your parents now in Montreal, Canada.
Yeah.
Okay. What was life like? Because you're going to school now. You're in elementary school. You get off the bus, or they pick you up from school, whatever that is. You get home. What's it actually like? Paint a picture for us.
Yeah, I'm trying to recall. I think at first it was tough because everything was new.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know the language, I didn't know the culture, the things you do, the customs you do. In Asia, it's different than in
Big
North
time.
America.
Big time.
So it's just a big learning curve, big adjustment curve, right? And at first I felt a little isolated because I didn't have any friends. I couldn't speak the language. Couldn't talk to anybody. So it was definitely challenging. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, were you in a house or an apartment?
We were in an apartment.
You were.
Yeah.
Do you remember what it looked like?
No.
Really?
It was small.
But you remember your first apartment?
Yeah, but
you don't remember the second one.
first apartment, I still when I go visit my grandparents, I still see it.
Oh,
So,
that's helpful.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
They still have the same apartment.
Was it warm in your house growing up when you were in elementary school?
Warm in what
Warmth.
sense?
Love.
No.
No.
Not really.
So you get home. It's time to do homework, probably, as
Yeah.
most kids have to do.
Yeah, my parents were really big on just like schooling, get good grades, create a good life for yourself. Because that's kind of all they knew. They never really taught me about how to be a man,
Okay.
how to be a good person, things like that. It was just like go to school, it's traditional Asian parent style.
What did you do for fun, though, with your parents as a kid? Did you play board games? Did you go for walks? Did you go to the park?
Sometimes we played board games, but a lot of time just because there was such a big gap in understanding each other.
Yeah.
I just defaulted to hanging out with my friends.
How would you define the gap?
The gap is just that they really didn't understand me as a person.
Yeah,
like
let's
who I
elaborate
am.
on that a little bit here.
Like they don't really know how I think, who I am,
Yeah.
what I want to do in my life. Right? They just really don't understand me.
Okay.
And I don't think they took the time to really understand me.
Did that cause frustration?
At the time, yeah.
How'd you act upon that frustration as a kid in elementary school?
I just would not be home a lot. So I would just go hang out with my friends and do stuff. And
stay busy.
Yeah, just like just not be home.
Okay.
That's how I dealt with it.
It's a very vivid picture.
Yeah.
That's what we're going for. That's good. Now, middle school comes up. All right. Middle school can be weird for a lot of people. Hormones are running rampant. Girls might enter your life. Who knows? Or maybe they already entered your life in elementary school. I've had that come up in conversation before. Sports might come up because now you're more athletic. Whatever it is. What is middle school like for you? Are you all in the same apartment in Montreal?
No. So middle school was another transition period because I at the age of 12, right when I started to like have a friend group, learned the language. My parents my dad got a job in Massachusetts, so we got to move to the States. So then I got another big learning curve transition, learning English. And that was another
Jeez.
point where I had to, do it all over again. Right?
Yeah. So you're speaking French
Yeah.
in Canada.
Yeah.
No English?
No English.
So when they say French Canadian, the word French is prominent.
Back then,
Yeah.
now in Montreal, it's almost bilingual. But back then,
Okay.
it's predominantly French.
Fun fact, my great-grandmother,
Yeah.
no, my grandma, my dad's side, I never met her. She got hit by a train when my dad was like 3 years old.
I'm sorry to hear.
And thank you. And she was French Canadian.
Okay.
Yeah. Gagne was the last name.
Okay.
Yeah. Fun fact. I'm
Okay.
part French Canadian.
Yeah.
So we could be cousins. Dude, no, I'm just,
We have some
I'm totally messing, man.
similar stomping grounds, maybe. Yeah.
Perhaps. Anyways, getting back to you. So you moved to America. Your dad just got this new job, dude.
Yeah.
That's a big deal
Yeah.
for him and your family. Because how long did it take for him to get that degree?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Finally got the degree, and then what happened next? Was it degree then job, or did he have a job before y'all moved to America?
No, he was working in Montreal, and
Okay.
then I think he found a better opportunity in Massachusetts.
So he got the work
Boston. Yeah, so then we went. We just moved the whole family. I remember, my dad went first because he needed to start first, and my mom and I were packing up the place. We were, we had a yard sale. I was helping her sell all the stuff in our apartment, and we just packed up as much as we could in a car and just drove to America.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What a trip. Okay. All right. You're in middle school now. Paint a picture for us at your house. What's it like? Is
I
it
think
much of the same?
It was difficult because my parents, not only I had to do the transition,
Yeah.
my parents had to do it as well. So they also had to learn English.
So you're learning together.
Sort of, yeah.
Did y'all bond over that at all?
Not really.
What?
Yeah.
How did you bond in middle school with your parents?
Really
What
didn't.
sweet moments did you have? Look,
Really didn't
I grew up in
much.
like a hot and cold household.
Yeah.
I still got good times with my folks, man. We'd sit around the table, we'd laugh our tails off at times. We'd go to my baseball games all the time, right?
Yeah.
They'd take me there. Those are some sweet moments. My birthdays were always fired up. Christmas was always fired up. You gotta have something, man. Something that was sweet.
I'm thinking. It's pretty neutral and pretty just, my parents were going through this transition, so there was a lot of pressure on them, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was a little easier for me because I went to school, so they were actually teaching me the language. They had to figure that out on their own, on top of having a job, right? So I get it. The pressure, they were going through a lot of stuff, so because of the pressure they felt, they probably didn't have a lot of time for me. And so they were just trying to, survive, right? It's a new environment. They were just trying to figure it out, the culture, the language, how to navigate the political landscape at work, right? Which is not easy. So yeah, that was kind of the thing,
Yeah, what's interesting? Sometimes I'll go through this life story piece with people, and literally elementary, middle, high school, everything's great. And I look at myself, shaking my head going, what? You got to be kidding me. And literally, everything's fantastic for them, their whole adolescent life. And here you are, on the contrast. It's more of, it seems a little gray,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
This is good. This is painting a really good picture here, because we're going to talk about how you got color in your life eventually.
Sure.
So we're going to get there. This is really good. Thank you for sharing all this. So, okay, what about your social life in middle school?
Yeah.
What were your friend groups like, sports, anything like that?
Yeah, so friend group wise, at first it was, again, difficult to make friends. I didn't know the language. I also didn't look like a lot of the kids in my town. So I actually got picked on a lot because I was different.
They're all Irish white people.
Yeah, there's a lot of white people in that town. Yeah, so it was difficult at first. I didn't know. After some time, I was able to find some people that I gravitate towards. They really helped bring some color into my life. They really, I remember I had one friend, Andrew. He's like, hey, if you're going through some stuff at home, you can just stay with me for a couple of days here and there, and I would just go stay with him.
A middle school kid said that.
I think we met in middle school, and then in high school that kind of also became a pattern.
Yeah.
Right? Like I would just go to his home and we'd just
That's
hang out. I would just not be home, not have to deal with my parents, being angry all the time.
Your parents were angry?
Yeah. I mean, they were going through a lot of things.
What kind of things?
Transitioning from, a new country.
Yeah.
Right? Stress of finding new work. Just figure out how they were going to put food on the table. Just a lot of pressures that they were going through.
So it was them and their bubble.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of anger in the bubble. And then here's you all the way over here.
Yeah.
Trying to figure things out.
On my own.
Trying to get a foundation.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got a buddy like Andrew. That's cool.
Yeah. And through my friends, that's where I learned a lot of things about, friendship, about how to be a good person.
Yeah.
How to be a good friend.
You know something, though? Here's what I'm recognizing. The fact that you're such a curious dude.
Yeah.
You've always been like that. And the fact that you had your grandparents that helped you, for lack of a better term, scratch that itch. Answer the questions and think deeply about stuff. You went ahead and sought those things at a young age. You said there's got to be different out there. Let me go find it.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised a guy like Andrew coincidentally popped up in your life.
Yeah.
Nice work.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, there's the collection of people that helped me gain color in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wouldn't be here who I am without them, because it was just the accumulation of those people making these small investments in me, whether it was taking me in their home or letting me spend Christmas with them, whatever those little like small moments are.
Yeah.
That's kind of that helped me a lot through high school, middle school. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's a really cool story so far. I can't wait to hear what's next. Now, what about getting in trouble? You ever get in trouble in school?
I was I was rebellious.
How did you rebel?
I wasn't very big on authority.
So how did you,
especially
what specifically comes to mind?
I just remember one time I was suspended because I was for insubordination. I don't remember exactly what I did, but it was just something to do with like people tell me to do something, and I was just like, I don't really want to do it. Yeah.
You couldn't have been that laid back though. You couldn't.
No.
They said, Pehu or Jimmy, whatever they called you at the time, you got to do this. You got to do this, and you're like, God, look, teacher, I just really don't want. Oh, you're suspended. You're whatever it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen like that. You probably had a little pushback. So what were you talking smack to him? Were you saying, "Hey, F you"?
I don't remember. I just know that like when people just tell you to do something just for the sake of, hey, you need to do this, it just doesn't really jive with me, right?
Yeah, you say, what's the point?
But if someone come up to you and says, hey, we need to do this because X, Y, and Z, and they're very logical, or they tell you why, yeah, okay, that makes sense, right? But
using reason.
But it's just someone's gonna boss you around, right? Like you're just like, I don't know.
Imagine if you went to, let's say, a Catholic school, right?
Yeah.
They're super rule heavy and super disciplined, and they have a ton of that crap going on where they say, do this just because I said so. Dude, you would have been a freaking riot up in there.
Yeah.
Based off this story.
Maybe.
Could have been. Yeah. I'm just imagining it.
Yeah.
Did you get into sports?
I did, yeah.
What'd you play?
Sports, basketball.
Really?
Actually, basketball was a great outlet for me growing up.
Yeah.
Because of whatever things was going on at home or in my personal life, basketball was always been an escape. I could just go on the basketball court, zone out for like 2-3 hours, forget about everything.
Was it organized, or you went to play street ball?
It was organized, right?
Did you sign yourself up for that, or did your parents sign you up?
I think when I was younger, like my dad played basketball, so he was like, hey, maybe you should try basketball. And I did, and I liked it.
Okay.
So I just kept playing with it.
Did they go to your games?
I think they came to one of my games, just one. But it's all good. I mean, I played for the love of the game. I played because it was a great refuge. It was a great escape. And in basketball, I think was one of the foundation for my self growth, right? Like just always seeing how you can do things better and being extremely honest with who you are and what you're good at and what you're not good at, right? Just being like taking ego aside and just being very, very factual. Because I remember I was always a great shooter, right? I could always shoot the basketball very well. And obviously, when you have a strength like that, you gravitate towards that strength.
Mm.
So during practice, during games, I would just shoot because that's what I'm good at, and that's how I can score points. So what happens during games is that the defense would kind of like, by the second half, they would kind of figure me out. So they'd be like, okay, so he shoots, all his points come from jump shots, but let's see if he can put it on the floor and drive to the basket. So then what they do is they play tight defense on me, right? And I get shut out. I would get like 0 points in the second half.
Damn.
So I get really pissed off. So I remember for one summer, I worked on my drives. I didn't care if I lost the game or whatever. I just wanted to get better at driving.
Yeah.
Right. And then after the summer, my drive was pretty good. I could drive with my right. I can finish with my left. I can shoot. I can pass. Then I became a problem. Right. It's like you can't play too tight on him. He'll drive. You can't play too loose on him. Because then he'll shoot. But I think that was like the foundation of like just understanding where your weaknesses are, where your blind spot are, and just improving on them.
Yeah, so we're big on principles here in this podcast. We bring up principles all the time. Some are repeats. Some come up nearly every episode. A couple that stand out are success is embedded in routine. Okay? So you probably created an incredible routine for yourself when it came to practice that summer, right? You probably went out almost every day to practice.
Yeah.
Every day. And then also, the success of any endeavor is embedded in the most minute details. So something tells me that when you were practicing, you were probably hyper specific on every little nook and cranny of your movements, such as what if I move my fingers like this on the ball, or what if I step an inch to the right, something like, not those are just examples, right? But my point is, you built a lot of principles for success at a young age through sports.
Yeah, it was a good foundation for me to learn about the self-improvement.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I noticed a lot of similarities between sports and life in general, right? You learn so many key things. I can't imagine not growing up in sports of some sort, whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, because you have, some days you're going to win.
Yeah.
Some days you're going to lose, just like life.
Yeah.
And then on the losses, you can really, if you're honest with yourself, you can look at the losses and figure out what happened, where you came short, and then make adjustments so that next time you would win. And I think that's just a good principle for life as well.
Yeah, and I like how you also said that you didn't care whether you won or lost. You said,
I just want to get better.
I just wanted to get better.
And
that is an under-freaking-rated statement. And I'm getting passionate right now because I can't tell you how many times I have this conversation with people. You've got to fall in love with the process.
Yeah.
Remove the outcome. Because it's not, Vince Lombardi, it's not whether you win or lose, it's how well you play the game. Coach Vince would see his players, sure, they might have won, but if they played like crap, he'd be like, what the hell was that? What was that? I don't care if you won. Y'all were dragging ass. Anybody could have beat this other team, right? But if they lost and he saw them giving all they got, boom, thumbs up, right?
Yeah.
Real quick, you might want to adjust it just because your hair's sticking up. Yeah. And I know, yeah.
Better now?
Perfect.
Okay, cool.
Sharp. Yep. Yeah. So thanks for bringing that up. Now, transitioning on to high school, you had your buddy Andrew in your life.
Yeah.
When did girls come into play?
I think I was pretty shy in high school.
You're shy?
Yeah.
You're not shy now?
No, not really. No.
Okay. What about, so what was it like going in your household? You're a high school guy now. You're probably getting muscles now. You're a great basketball player.
I was pretty skinny. Like I had a really fast metabolism growing up. I was like, it was hard for me to put on, weight. I lifted for basketball, but I wasn't getting as big as like my peers and my friends. But I still lifted.
Well, you're becoming a man nonetheless.
Yeah.
You're becoming a man. You go to your house. Your parents are doing their thing. Are they still angry in high school?
Yeah, my parent hasn't changed.
No?
No. A little bit. I think age, with age, like, when you age, you kind of like slow down a little bit. You kind of start to realize things. But but not too much.
At any point in time in high school, did anything change with the dynamic between you and your parents?
No. I think that the biggest dynamic when it changed was when I got to college, when I was out of the home.
Okay.
I had to really figure out things out on my own, be independent. And also, when you're in college, you meet more different people, right? It's not just people from your own town.
The bubble gets bigger.
So your bubble gets bigger. You're exposed to different thinking, different types of people. That's when I was able to that's when more color came to my life. Yeah, like way more color came to my life in college because I was surrounding myself with people. I learned a lot about friendship in college, right? Just being around guys all the time, going to lunch with them, having fallen out with friends, discovering a new group of friends. The whole process. It was a great learning experience.
Yeah.
As a human.
Of course. I had a little bit. I went to college a little later in life. I was kind of like Billy Madison. You ever watch that movie?
Yeah, but you also in the Marines or the Army, right? So you had that.
I was in the. I went to the Navy.
The Navy.
Yeah, so then when I went, I was like 24.
Yeah.
In college with 18-year-olds with no worldly experience.
Yeah.
The Navy, that's a shocker for sure. You get put in boot camp and there's everybody from around the whole country and you're next to each other for a long time. Yeah, that's wild, man. But anyways, my point is whatever kind of experience you get out of high school, it's important.
Yeah.
It's really important. Like think about all that you gained from going to college, right? You said you got more color in your life.
Oh yeah.
Right? It opened your eyes to what the world could be like.
Different people.
Yeah.
Different thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that also goes hand in hand with exposure, the topic of exposure, right? It might not have been the most comfortable. It's a new environment, but you exposed yourself to all these new people, and you sought new things, and look what happened, right? When you put yourself out there.
You grow.
You
You blossom as a person.
Exactly. It's really hard to grow and blossom when you're in high school because the bubble's just so small.
Too small.
Way too small.
Yeah.
Unless your parents are, forcing that stuff on you with extracurricular things.
Yeah.
It's still really hard because your time is sucked up with being a high schooler.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever get in trouble in high school? Come on.
Not too much.
Come on.
Yeah. I was not too much, honestly. Like I told you, I had a problem with the authority.
Yeah.
But other than that, I never got in trouble with the police. I never got in trouble with the wrong crowds.
Go ahead.
Pretty smart about those kind of things.
Yeah.
Because again, I didn't have. I guess you can take it two ways, right? You have parents who are just really not present in your life, so you kind of just go off the wall, and you kind of do all kinds of shit. For me, because I didn't have parents that were really involved in my life, I just was like, okay, I need to be like my own parent, and I need to look out for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did your parents discipline you? Every parent has their own style.
Yeah. I think they were just things like, hey, we're if you don't do this, we're just gonna take away. We're not gonna give you rides places. And I just found other ways I would either walk or have my friends pick me up, or they would just kind of cut off resources to me if I didn't do what they wanted. But yeah.
I used to get paddled.
Yeah.
With a wooden stick.
And that too.
You did?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
Dude. Look, I know it was normal for that kind of stuff to happen for many years.
Yeah.
In society, right? Looking back on it, I really don't know if I'm gonna hit my kids with a stick.
No, I don't
really
think I will either. I don't think that it's there's a right way to discipline your kid, or just like anybody, even at work, right? Just there's a right way to get people to change their behavior.
Yeah.
And just hitting somebody is not it.
That's cutting.
Yeah.
It's not molding.
It's not.
No.
It's not.
It's crazy to think
but
about.
as sometimes parents don't know any better, right? They just kind of, maybe that's how they were brought up.
Yup.
And that's what they do. They continue the cycle, and that's why it's good to have different perspective, to educate yourself, to see, to have that kind of self-growth, right? So you can think about other ways of doing things.
Well, now with the internet, our parents didn't have internet. Now with the internet,
they didn't.
We can get all the kinds of perspective we want.
Yes.
From all around the world at a blink of an eye.
That's why I think in this day and age, like if you don't know something, there's ignorance is bliss, right? Like there's really no reasons why you should be uneducated about something, because if there's something you want to know about, there's just so much resources and material on it that you can like read upon and educate yourself.
Dude, I think I'm starting to develop a habit. Anytime I have a question I don't know the answer, I immediately pop open ChatGPT on my phone and type it in, and it gives me all these different options and ways to think about things. Like literally think of something. What is that? Click, type, there it is. It's great. Like think about our rate of learning now. It's amazing.
It's exponentially like faster and better. Just with the amount of data that we have and the access to data.
Yeah.
We didn't have that back in the day.
No, we had books.
We had books that took you a long time to read. Now you can get the summarized version from ChatGPT. You can get really specific about what you're looking for, so you don't have to like skim through the whole book, right? Just knowledge is just obviously because there's just so much content out there. You have to also be selective about what you consume, because some of the content, you might stumble upon content from someone who really doesn't know what they're talking about. So you just have to be mindful and selective about where that source is, and is it a good source? Is it a valid source? So you just have to do that kind of due diligence.
One thing that I did that the listeners can also adopt is all my social media accounts. I'm talking the Facebook and the Instagrams. Those are the main ones that I hop on. I don't unfriend, but I unfollow things and people that aren't in alignment with my goals.
100%. I sometimes just unfollow.
Yeah.
Because
if it's constant trash.
But it's not like you unfollowing someone. It doesn't mean you don't like them. Doesn't mean you think they're a bad person. The only thing it means is I don't want to subscribe to what you're putting out. It's just a subscription, right?
Yeah, it's business.
It's not even business, but it's just like if you when you say, hey, you want to let's stay connected on Instagram, right? Like it means like you're gonna subscribe to me, I'm gonna subscribe to you. But if the content that you're putting out isn't really in alignment with what I want to see on my feed, there's no hard feelings to unsubscribe someone.
Right. That's what I meant by it's business.
Yeah.
No hard feelings.
It's unsubscribing someone, but it's not like you don't. It's not like you don't think that you think they're a bad person or whatever. It just means like, hey, I unsubscribe from shit all the time. Your emails, like a bunch of shit all the time. I unsubscribe, right? It's just too much.
And they're my friends sending me their stuff, and I feel a little bad. I do. I'm like, dang, they're gonna think that I don't like them. I hope they don't think that.
They just gotta get better at sending you shit that you care about. No.
Yeah, get better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, you get out of high school. Did you win any basketball championships?
No.
How was your team? Did you guys do all right?
We were decent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Middle pack.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good. You get out of high school, graduate. What was graduation day like? Were your folks?
Yeah, my parents came. My graduation, it was great. It was good achievement in my life. Just graduated from college, and then entered the real world, and I really didn't know what the real world was like.
But college.
Yeah.
We got to dive into that for a second. Where'd you go to school?
Undergrad, I went to Rhode Island. I went to this college called Roger Williams University, small college in Bristol, Rhode Island.
Okay. How'd you pick that school?
At the time, I probably didn't have a good, like I just wasn't smart enough to pick, like I just didn't know how to pick a good school. Not a good school, but like I just didn't have the whereabouts, right? So I picked it on like, hey, it's got a decent business school. It's close proximity to Boston, right? But if I were to do it all over again, I probably would have picked like a school in a major city. And the reason why I would have done that is because like New York or Miami or LA, the reason why I would have done that is because I would have gotten exposure to more diverse thinking and people at a younger age, and that can really like exponentially like change the trajectory of your life, right? Because like you said, you meet somebody, you get an internship, or you get a mentor, right, in a big city like that, where you can rub shoulders with those kind of people, where encounters are just around the corner. Like that could really change the trajectory of your life.
Yeah, and you live downtown now.
Yeah.
Awesome. This is the first time you ever lived downtown somewhere?
Yeah, when I was in Boston, I was like not downtown. I was like 15 minutes outside of downtown. It was still considered Boston, but it wasn't like Downtown. So yeah, I would say this is probably my first time living downtown.
Do you notice a major difference? Is it helpful?
A bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a bit because like, you meet people at the gym, you meet people maybe at the grocery store, but it's I mean, I think I picked downtown because I wanted to be central. I want to be close to my office. But I would say yes, because whenever you live in a big building, right, you're always gonna meet your neighbors. You're gonna meet people who, like my neighbor is the one that told me about the whole Puerto Rico tax, 4% corporate tax, right?
That's cool.
And then my other neighbor, he's a professional race car driver, so he's teaching me all about cars and things like that. He's retired, but and he's a super cool guy. He has a dog that's like super mellow, and sometimes we'll go on walks with his dog. But yeah,
and the owner of freaking Buc-ee's lives on the top floor. Of your building.
Yeah, I heard that too. He lives in the penthouse.
If y'all don't know what Buc-ee's is, Buccees, it is the world's largest gas station by pump count. It's free, and the actual largest one is 40 minutes south of Austin in a town called New Braunfels. It's freaking massive, and it's like a Walmart on the inside. You ever been to Buc-ee's before?
I think I've been once.
It's an experience.
Once. Yeah.
And they have a mascot.
Yeah, they do.
A beaver.
Yeah.
Point is, yeah, you live in this environment now, and look who your neighbors are.
Yeah.
They're right there. And let's say you lived out in the country,
Isolated, yeah.
Exactly. Fun fact, another one for you. We're going to be neighbors in 12 days. Not in the same building, but very close.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Where are you moving to?
Moving downtown. I'll tell you once we hop off here. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm super
excited.
pumped, dude.
All right, I'm excited.
Yeah.
We'll see more of each other.
Yeah, we're gonna be right there. North Italia is next door.
Okay, cool.
So,
I think I know that building.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So college, what was that like for you? I mean, you said you were quiet in high school, or maybe shy.
Yeah, I was shy.
Yeah. When did the shyness start to dissipate?
When I learned English being my third language, right? There's always words I would like mispronounce or butcher. I had a bit of an accent, so I was shy because like I just didn't speak the language as good as other people. And
dude, this just came to me. You gotta give yourself so much praise for this, because I've known people that have lived in America their whole lives, okay?
Yeah.
And they're from another country, and their accent is extremely thick. Extremely thick. And you don't have an accent at all.
It comes out in some words, but generally no.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what kind of work that took.
Yeah, I think word park adaptability. I think just like being able to, French is my second language, and I also speak French with very little accent. Right. I just think like when you learn language at a young age, you kind of have that muscle memory is just very fresh, and you're very adaptable. Your learning capabilities as a youth is like way better, right? So
something tells me though that you're driven a little bit more than others in certain regards.
Yeah, sure.
In certain regards, and something tells me. I notice you bring up adaptability, sociability often. I'm going to throw a dart on the board here. Tell me if I'm right or wrong. You're highly driven by, for lack of a better term, being accepted.
No, not really.
Look, I don't know how to say it.
To be accepted? No.
No, that's not it. But you're highly driven to, like, why don't you just tell us? How did you become so driven to nail the French accent, to nail the English or dialect rather?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I just think like when I would listen to people talk and I would listen to music, I was just like, oh, it would be great to sound like that. So let me just like try to talk like that, right? It just like I just wanted to sound like that.
And why'd you want to sound like that?
I just think it sounds better.
Because it sounds better?
Yeah.
Now, what about it sounding better is attractive to you?
I don't know. Just like, I remember when I would shoot a basketball, right?
Yeah.
I used to shoot a basketball with a form that wasn't pretty. And I was like, I would look at other people and the way they shot, and I would try to like look at their mechanics, and maybe I would go up to them, ask them how what their release point is. And I remember I was talking to one of my friend, and he was like, oh yeah, when I shoot, I make sure my elbow is brushing against my side, so it's tucked, right? So when it comes up, it's really straight, so it's not flaring out, right? It's not a chicken wing. I just remember little things like that, and then I would practice that all over and over again, and then my jump shot became like a really good-looking jump shot. But not only was it good-looking, it was also effective. It would go in a lot. So I just always had that, thing in me that, like, if I want to do something, I want to do it well, and I want to do it to my best ability, and I don't want to half-ass it. I think that's where probably the drive comes from.
Yeah, and I need redemption real quick. It's not to be accepted. No, it's to be valuable. Because if you can bring your truest self to the table, you can provide value to your community.
Yeah, 100%.
Boom.
You don't water yourself down.
That's what I meant to say. Thank you for
that. You stay.
Yeah. And then also another theme that I noticed with you is precision, which is freaking badass.
You have to be. If you
Not everybody thinks like that. You say you have to be, that's your standard, just for the record, which is a great standard. Precision is extremely important. Not everybody thinks like that.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be, right?
Yes.
Like there's, in any job you do, there's a level of precision and level of thoroughness that you need to go through, right? Like when you're looking at a real estate property, there's a level of precision. You need to know how much to price this property for, so that it doesn't sit on the market, right? Mm-hmm. So you can't be sloppy with these things, right? Because if you make an error, right, it might not sell, it stays on the market too long, the seller's not happy, they might not use you again, or they might tell other people not to use you again, right? So you gotta be precise with these things, right? You gotta just take pride in your work, right? Yeah.
And here, dude, I just landed on something awesome. All right. So, I also recognize the fact that you're really intentional about who you're investing your time with, right? And you just mentioned 3 dudes earlier in the podcast that are all abundance mindset guys that go out there and get stuff done, uplifting, right? When you're done hanging out with those dudes, you're usually charged up because of the types of conversation you're having. You're having great conversations, and I would label all 3 of them as the light in the dark, right? So by you placing value on being valuable, that shows that you are also aiming to be the light in the dark, to make a positive difference.
Yeah.
Which is why you're seeking other people that are like that.
Yeah. I think when it's all said and done, I think I just want my life to be an inspiration to other people to improve their situation.
Yes.
Right? Because like my situation wasn't always the best. To make the best with the hand you dealt with. Mm-hmm. And then the beauty about things is that you, like, there's always a path forward. Like there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. Like the only thing is you have to believe it, mm-hmm. and then figure out what that is going to be for you, right? And there's different goals I have in my life. Some of it is personal, some of it is professional. But I think what truly fires me up is being able to just inspire people.
To be that person. You want to be that guy.
To be genuinely, authentically themselves.
Yeah.
To find something that they really enjoy doing in life, because I think that's important, right? That gives people purpose, right? It's not about like you got to make this crazy amount of money, but just finding that purpose, right?
Yeah.
Finding that happiness, finding things that bring you true happiness, right? And that comes from just really knowing yourself. Because when I was growing up, I spent a lot of time in solitude, right? My parents were doing their own thing. I spent a lot of time in solitude. So I got to know myself pretty well. But then after college, when I got into the real world, I think that solitude became more of a reflection. And when I was able to push out my ego, I was able to be really honest with myself, right? Because like I said, we all have blinders. We all have blind spots. And to be able to be aware of those blind spots, and to make corrections on those things. And I think that's how you improve in life. In sports, you have a coach that tells you like, hey, your ball handling skill is not super tight. You got to work on that, right? Your rebounding skills is not great. Let's work on that. But in life, you don't have somebody like that. So you have to have the awareness and also the not have this ego that just you think like you're perfect, right? Because no one is. But just having that awareness to be able to be your own coach and just remove the blinders and really understand where are some areas that you can really improve on.
And that brings us back to focusing on the process of life, the self-improvement, right? It's one thing to focus on the process of being a good basketball player. What about ourself? How do we enjoy that process, the personal development side of things, right? I think that's the most rewarding thing we can actually ever do.
Yeah. I would say once I had my standards for myself was set higher, I was able to attract better quality people in my life. But I think until I was able to do that, I don't think I was able to attract those kind of people. Once I understood where I fell short in terms of friendship and how I could become a better friend, I think that's when I was able to attract better friends in my life too.
Yeah, like attracts like.
100%.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And I've heard countless times on social media, and especially in Austin, Texas, where there's a huge spiritual community. We talk about frequencies and vibrations and stuff like that. High vibration people, they've decluttered that gunk. They've freed themselves up.
Yeah.
And then the vibrations attract each other.
Yeah.
And when you are in the same room with somebody that's not of that, you can sense it. You can feel it. And then you say to yourself, you know what? That is in alignment with me.
Yeah, because vibration is something you can't fake.
Nope.
Nope. Like that's like a aura or scent that kind of just stays with somebody, right? They can act in a certain way. They can act really confident. They can tell you what they want. But I think like that vibration, that aura, you just can't fake it.
Nope. Let's talk about the big picture here. Let's say somebody put you in a history book and they taught about you, right? In high school. These high school kids are reading Pei Hu Wang, right?
Yeah.
Ideally, no holds bar. What would you want it to say in the history book about you?
I think the number one thing I want to say is, don't let your circumstance dictate where you think you'll be in the future. I think we all have the capacity to dream bigger. And think beyond our bubble. I think I made the mistake of when I was in high school thinking like my bubble was everything because you don't know any better. And I also didn't have parents to tell me like, hey, this is just a temporary thing. You're going to do 4 years. You're going to go in the real world. You're going to be free. You're going to see things. You're going to meet different people. I just didn't have that. So I just so overly indexed on that bubble, right? And there's a lot of things that suffered because of that, right? Like I wasn't putting enough time in my schoolwork. All those things kind of hurt me in the future, right? Mm-hmm. I redeemed myself by working really hard in the real world, and then applying to a really good business school. I got in, and then during business school, I did well. I made some really good connections, and with business school, I was able to get into mergers and acquisitions. But I could have done that all much sooner. I could have got to where I'm at much quicker.
Yeah.
But hindsight 2020.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
So I think my message to like kids is just like, stay true to who you are. Don't get caught up in some bullshit, right? Actually, last year I went to a inner city high school in Austin, and I taught 2 classes. One is on financial literacy, and one is on career readiness. So every year in my company, we do this thing where we volunteer a day out of our life to do something for the community. And the ranges of things you can do can be like, pick up trash or build something or do something with like the animal shelters for people who like that. I always wanted to do something for the next generation because I feel like that's where I'm most impactful.
Yeah.
So I taught 2 classes, one financial literacy, one on career readiness. And growing up, I never knew anything about financial literacy. It's a class that nobody teaches.
No one teaches credit scores.
Nobody teaches that. Even in high school, nobody teaches that.
It's crazy.
They teach you like For people who are not even going to be scientists, they teach you like science 101, but like they don't teach you.
They teach you algebra.
Algebra, which
One
you
in our
don't
adult life.
really use ever again.
Huh.
So I taught them all about credit. I taught them about I told them the most important thing, right? Understanding how much money is coming in, so your revenues. Yeah, I was like, you got to think of yourself like a business, right? Like Pei Hu Wang Inc., Greg Carlson Inc., right? You got to be on top of how much money you're making, so that's the revenue. You got to be mindful about where your expenses are, and then hopefully, the revenues is greater than the expense, right? Then you factor in tax and all that stuff. But nobody teaches that. So then what happens is that you have and also they make credit way too easy, way too attainable nowadays, right? Because it's just easy. You swipe. So you have a whole generation of people who are living paycheck to paycheck. Even worse, you have people who are now defaulting on their credit card loans, and they're paying like 15 to 20% interest rates on that, and all the people who are selling you those credit limits are making money off of you, but nobody teaches you anything like that, right? Nobody teaches you things about discipline, about, hey, live it below your means, right? Those are all just things that isn't instilled in us. So I taught a class on that, and I taught a class on career readiness, just thinking about, hey, when you grow up, what do you want to be? And a lot of people, like, I remember asking a kid, like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, I want to be a firefighter. I said, okay, great. Why do you want to be a firefighter? He said, my dad's a firefighter, so I want to do that. I said, okay. I said, do you know what are the skills required to be a firefighter? He said, no, I don't. I said, do you know if you're going to enjoy being a firefighter? He said, no, you don't. No, he doesn't. So the only reason why he chose it is because his dad's in it. So I was like, okay, I want you to do some homework. I got some homework for you. So one, I want you to talk to your dad and ask him, what do you enjoy most about being a firefighter? Yeah. What do you enjoy least about being a firefighter? How much does a firefighter pay? What's the career path of that? I just gave him questions to ask, right? And that's just part of doing due diligence. So before you go into something, you just got to figure out if this is right for you. I'm a curious person by nature. I understand that most people are not like me, but at least that gave him some things to think about. Because maybe he's like, after he has this conversation with his dad, he's like, well, actually, I don't really want to be a firefighter. Maybe I should look for something else. But these are the kind of things that nobody teaches you.
No.
Right?
No. My sister went to college for 4 or 6 years, whatever it is, to be a teacher. She was a teacher for 2 years.
Hated it?
She hated it.
Yeah. Same thing. Yeah. Like, we should really, like, I know, like, college nowadays is just a business. They just want your money. They just want to pump out degrees.
There's a lot of politics involved.
A lot of politics involved, right? It's just, everybody
ranking system is botched.
Everybody can get a loan for college, right? They underwrite anything, even if you major in anthropology, some shit that doesn't make money, they'll underwrite that. They'll give you a loan, right? So, but you have to be smarter than whatever people that are trying to.
It's the game that we're in.
Yeah, whatever they're trying to push down on you and trap you in this, years and years of debt. You have to be smarter than that. You have to understand, hey, let me just figure this thing out. Like, if I take on, or if I go and take on close to 200K in student debt loan, and I come out making like 40, 50K a year, right? Maybe that's not a good ROI, Yeah. And maybe there's an intersection between something that I can do that can maximize the earning and something that I enjoy. Because I'm not saying like, hey, you got to pick something that just earns the most amount of money, because then you do something you're miserable, right? Yeah. But maybe there's an intersection where there's like a nice balance between something that you're interested in and something that you that can earn you a good ROI on your investment.
Right. Yeah, the school of life.
School of life, yeah.
Yeah. I can't believe that they don't teach us that stuff.
Yeah, because before I got into M&A, like, I researched that very thoroughly. Like, I researched how much those position pays. I researched what it consists of. And the hard part was to get in there, because it's a very selective group of people that goes in there, because it's complex, right? You got to talk, you got to advise people, right? So you got to be, really good communicator. You got to be very sharp analytically, because you got to analyze a bunch of data, financial models and things of that nature. So I did the research before I went in there, and I knew that this is something I would like.
That's a great piece of information that people can apply. Look, you might be in a career right now. You might hate it, but look, take Pei Hu's advice right now and apply it to something different. Do your research. really dive deep into the nitty-gritty details.
And the one thing I'll say is that it's, I was at an event and I saw this lady was like showcasing her paintings. And I just remember just starting a conversation with her, and I was like, dude, those paintings are amazing. And she goes, yeah, thank you. And I just was asking a little bit about her background. She didn't start painting until she was 45 years old. Didn't pick up a paintbrush till she was 45. Yeah. And her work is amazing. So the lesson here is it's never too late to start, right?
Correct.
If you think it's too late, it's never too late. You just have to put in the work and you just stay dedicated and just.
Well, you're thinking about the outcome again. Oh, it's too late.
Yeah.
If you start thinking about the outcome, you're done. You're toast. You think Colonel Sanders gave a crap whether or not he became super successful with KFC? No, he cared about making his chicken and making people happy. And
make it the best damn chicken he could make. The tastiest chicken he can make.
Yeah. And enjoying that process.
Yeah. Because if you don't enjoy the process, you're just gonna quit. I think one of the reasons why Kobe Bryant has been a great idol of mine is because you just love basketball. You found something you loved at a young age and gave it all. Right? You just give it everything, and that's something extremely admirable. To be able to just give it all and just you have a goal, you want to be the best, and just everything you do is towards that goal.
Yeah, and when it comes to gratification, once you reach a certain dollar amount, as far as income, it doesn't really make a big difference in your life. I forget what that sweet spot number is, somewhere around $300K or something, I don't remember. And then where we really find the gratification, though, and it's endless, is learning and applying our skills. Learning new skills and applying them. People have the drive to learn and implement. That's where gratification comes from.
Yeah, and I think the cool part about that is I think you can read as many books as you want, educate yourself on these things, right? But just knowledge itself is not power, or it's not there's no utility. There's no true utility in it.
Right.
Where there's true utility is when you apply that knowledge, right? The application of that knowledge. But the hard part for everybody is that everybody's puzzle is constructed differently, right? Your puzzle is different than mine. So when we learn something like a piece of knowledge about success or about relationship or friendship, you have to literally take that knowledge and then figure out how it fits within your piece of the puzzle. And that's where where the interesting part comes in, that figuring out part, right? Because everybody's situation is different.
And that's where you get to turn it into a game.
A fun game where you get to figure out how to apply that knowledge for you.
Yes. And then when you're focused on a game, you see when we're playing a game, that's when we're the most present. And that's when we get to enter a flow state. And that's when life is freaking amazing. We're not thinking about, oh gosh, I got to pay this bill. Oh gosh, I got to go do that. Whatever. No, you're really enjoying life, because presence is priceless, and it also equals peace.
Yeah.
So it's all encompassing.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why basketball was such a big refuge for me when I was in high school is because when I stepped on the basketball court, I had 110% presence, right? Because if you're in a basketball court thinking about something that happened in school or something happened at home, you're gonna miss that cover. You're gonna miss the read on the defense, right? You have to be really locked in, right? And that flow state, if you can just take that flow state and apply to work or apply to whatever you're doing, the output of that is it's amazing, right? Just the amount of things you can do, the level of attention to details you can have, the precision you can have. But again, that goes back to finding something that you enjoy doing, because I don't think you can enjoy something doing. I don't think you can find something you don't enjoy doing and be so in that zone if you don't enjoy it. Right. Or you may be able to, but it's going to be much harder. So that means the precision, the attention to detail, all those things may not be there. Because you're just going to half-ass it. You're just going to be like, hey, I just want to get this done as quick as I can. So you don't enjoy it. But if you enjoy it, it becomes a craft. It becomes something that you just want to continue refining.
And think about the consequences in our lives if we don't focus, or if we're not present, and we're walking through life with the blindfolds on, and we're just reacting to things. The consequences, meaning we don't get to focus on the precision, like you just said. Then all of a sudden, oh crap, now I've got this credit card debt that's the size of a mountain. Then you remove yourself from being more present more often because you're stressed and you're reacting even more, and it snowballs out of control. Then you're in this pit. So I think what would be a great practice for everybody is to figure out a way to have the presence more often, to have a state of flow, not just when they're doing their work or in a basketball game, but enter that state of flow for their whole life.
Yes.
Now that's intricate. It is, because there's so many different facets. Look, when you're doing a basketball game, that's one thing.
Yeah.
And you can focus on that one thing. When you're doing work, same thing. Boom, one thing. But what about just your whole life, the whole picture? It might not be possible because there's things out of your control.
I was talking to a friend about this, and like the best work you do is when you're in that state of flow, right? And like, but even when I play basketball, there's times where there's different levels of flow. There's been games where I played where everything I threw up went in. Like I was just so locked in. Right, that's like when Kobe Bryant scored 82 points, he was locked in.
What?
81 points
in a game?
He was locked in. Oh. Yeah, like he could like literally like time slows down for you when you're in that flow state because you're it's
goosebumps, bro.
Have you ever seen that movie Limitless?
Yeah.
Okay, he takes a pill and he's like able to tap into his subconscious and like he's able to learn quicker. He's able to see things that nobody else sees. Right, his response time is quicker. Like I truly believe so. Like allows you to tap into that level of like consciousness, right? Where things just come like time slows down. You're able to pick things apart easier. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's like you're a savant.
Yeah.
Or whatever you're doing, and untouchable.
Yeah, just
it's
like
crazy.
You make these connections so quick. You're able to remember something that happened and then draw it and like connect it to something else, right? Like you're just firing on all cylinders, right? So I was talking about with my friend, and I was like, okay, like how can we replicate that more in our life, right?
In our life.
And I was like, and I was trying to think about all the times that I entered the flow state, right? So I try to think about the characteristics of like how that happened. So for one, there was no like distraction. So I was like, okay, so maybe I need to like put my phone on silent. Because like when you're in a flow state, you're in a flow state. You don't want something like your phone to be buzzing or to take you out of that flow state.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That'll take you out of your flow state. By the way, there's tons of studies. It'll take you out of your flow state for 20 minutes.
Yeah, because then you have to get back into it.
Just a text message.
Because then your attention is diverted, right? Your attention is completely diverted to something else, and then you have to come back to it, right? So like that's one thing. And I was thinking about like, okay, like what other things helps me? Second thing is you have to be calm. You have to be like, when you look at Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, fourth quarter, 20 seconds left, they have the ball on their hand, right? Pressure's on, like, right? Most people get nervous in those situations, right?
Up,
yeah. And then when you're nervous, you tend to make mistakes, or you tend to not perform at your best. So in order for you again to perform and be in that flow state, you have to be a little bit relaxed. Just think about when I think about, for example, when I'm having a conversation with like a partner in my company or a client that's very high up, right? The times where I've kind of made mistakes or said something maybe not intelligent was actually because I just like was a little bit nervous. I let the situation, I'm talking to somebody really high up. But then when I switched my mentality and I just said, hey, let me just like pretend I'm having a conversation with my friend, and I just didn't have that pressure on me, I was able to think about things. I was like, oh, they asked me a hard question. Oh, I know the answer. You didn't have these blockades. Just like when let's say you go talk to a girl, right? And you're nervous. You don't know what to say. You're like, oh, I said something stupid. But if you're calm, if you're just at ease, you can think of the next thing to say. It'll come to you.
One hack that I have for this, a deployable hack, you can use this today. Focus on the most granular things possible.
Now, what do you mean by that?
For example, you're going to go talk have a conversation with somebody that you might be nervous to have a conversation with. Focus on their words that they're using. Simply focus on their sentences.
Yeah. Be present. Listen to what they're saying.
Yeah, really listen.
Yeah.
And then again, it becomes a game. Like, how well can I listen?
Yeah.
I'm going to be the best listener possible.
Yes.
And then it takes the pressure off the conversation, what you're saying, because you're present.
Yeah. And
it brings you back to center.
And it also allows you to respond to what they're saying, to truly respond, versus you being in your head, you don't even listen to what they're saying, right? Like, when you truly connect with someone, is mean you're present, you're listening to what they're saying, and you're responding accordingly, right?
And it might take practice, right? But there are actual tactics that you can use to get better at something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is great. It's great for everybody.
Yeah. So those are kind of the two things I think you need to enter flow. Maybe you have other thoughts, but for me, it's like, hey, how can I get flow more? How can I enter that flow state?
Removing distractions is huge, man.
Yeah, that's number one. Like, you can't, like, I know if you're in an arena, right, fans are screaming, there's a lot of distraction. Just stay focused, right?
Stay focused on the most smallest thing you can possibly think about. For example, if you're in that arena, focus on the opponent.
You look at Tom Brady, calm, like almost like a silent killer, like just calm, just like stays focused. Hey, we're gonna win this. We're down by 20, but we're gonna win this, right? Like, just locked in.
He has so much belief.
And belief, yeah.
Yeah. And that confidence and
it's a quiet confidence, because it's not a loud. It's just like, hey, I'm locked in. We're gonna get this done, right?
Yeah, he's probably really good at managing his energy, right? Like, he turns it up at a drop of a hat when he needs to. Like,
yeah.
But then all of a sudden, boom, brings it back to his baseline.
Yeah, I think the most dangerous people are the people who are in full control of their energy, or their emotions and energy, right? Because you can be an extremely dangerous person. You ever heard that saying, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war?
Yeah.
So it's better to be extremely dangerous, right? Learn how to shoot guns, learn how to, fight, kickbox, and be able to control that.
Yeah.
And use it when you have to, than to be this extremely docile person, right?
You get chewed up.
And then you enter a situation and you don't know how to handle it, right? But on the contrary, I'm not saying you got to, like, learn all these skills so you can puff out your chest and go around bullying people. I'm saying learn to control that and use it when you absolutely have to.
All these things we touched upon today. We talked about being humble, increasing skill set, being present. All this stuff doesn't happen overnight, right? This is the work. This is the personal development side of things. And it is a practice, right? Just think about meditating. Some people can only meditate for like a minute when they first start because their mind is going everywhere. And then over time, they're practicing. It's skill on its own to literally do less, which is fascinating. It's a dichotomy of life, isn't it?
Yeah. It's interesting.
So let's wrap this up. I always like to ask this question. Let's say you got great grandkids. They want to get to know you.
Yeah.
What do you want to say to them?
I mean, similar thing I would say in my autobiography. I just want to say, like, whatever situation that you're in doesn't determine where you're going to end up, and you have a choice you can make to better your situation, right? I mean, I think when I have kids, I'll make sure to give them a good blueprint of, like, all the things I went through, all the things I didn't get from my parents. I'll make sure to pass that on, like a blueprint on how to navigate life. Because I went through all that. So I really remember all the challenges I went through, and hopefully I can help guide them. I don't think it's good to coddle them, because I think they need to also experience things, right, to build that resilience, build that grit. But there's definitely some lessons that I could have. There definitely could have been like a mentor that could have guided me along the way, so I didn't have to make as many mistakes. So that's probably one. And then I would say the second thing I would tell them is just think about your legacy. I think the number one thing I learned in business school is, and I was around a bunch of very highly successful people, high achievers, right? They're climbing the corporate ladder very quickly. And what I realized is that the most important thing in life is your life resume. It's not your work resume.
Right.
But nobody really thinks about the life resume. The life resume is what people say, after you're gone, right? Just the amount of people you impacted, how you made people feel. And we're so focused on that work resume because that's like the thing that credentializes you. That's a lot of people tie their worth to that. The life resume is not something people can readily see, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, if we're in a world where where we ask people like, what do you do for work? What do you drive? What zip code you live in? Maybe we should ask people things like, how many weddings have you been this year? Or, how many bridesmaid or best men's speech have you given, right? So these are kind of like, better markers of life.
Dang.
Right? Like just better indication of the amount of people you impacted, right?
Yeah. How much do you give back?
Yeah.
In
How much, what do you do to impact the next generation?
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing to better the community?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's the bright light we're talking about.
Yeah.
Seriously. Yep.
Yeah.
Let's say your folks are watching this. Look.
Oh, man.
Look, I get it.
Yeah.
Thankfully, my father completely did a 180, and he became a very docile man once my mother passed. He told me yesterday on the phone that it changed his life when my mother was dying with cancer. He told me yesterday, and you know what's crazy is I recognize that. He flipped a switch.
Wow.
Now he's like this happy-go-lucky, fun, soft bunny rabbit dude. It's
He
crazy.
he was the opposite?
Oh, he was super aggressive, bro.
Wow.
Like angry all the time.
But I guess sometimes something happens and you realize how short life is and how precious it is, and it does something to you, right?
Mm-hmm. No, I call him out like every day.
Yeah.
It's great. Anyways, what are you grateful for of what your parents did for you?
I'm grateful that my parents, provided, food, shelter for me.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for my parents that they never put me in I was never in dangerous places.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful, that my mom did spend some time with me here and there, talking to me about some stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's awesome.
there's definitely people who don't even have parents, right, or they never met their parents and they're living in really harsh conditions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and you're just born, one day you're just born, right? A lot of times you don't dictate where you're born or what social class you're born or what country you're born, right? So, I'm just grateful for all the opportunities that was presented to me, and the opportunities that my parents given me. I'm just trying to make the best out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I know the reason I think I wanted to bring this up today is because, the way we kind of painted the picture of your life story with your parents, right? It might not have seemed very warm, wholesome, and all that other jazz. There's good that comes from these things. Look at how you turned out.
Yeah, I don't think I would be who I am today if it wasn't for that, right? I don't think my drive would have been as strong, right? Because I just didn't have a lot growing up. So everything I have today is I work for it.
And you said it best. You said it best earlier. People are doing their best with what they know, with what they have.
Yeah.
Right? Like my dad, he grew up in a crazy household, dude. Dude got hit with a freaking cast iron frying pan.
Oof.
Sent into convulsions on the floor as a 7-year-old kid by his stepmom.
So you probably thought he was taking it easy on you.
No. I did not, because my perspective was only one, My point is, that's what he learned from.
Yeah.
So he toned it down tenfold. He never abused me, by the way. Never, thankfully. But, he still had that, aggression,
Yeah.
But again, he's just doing. People are always doing their best at all times. Literally, they are, and it's a good reminder not to take things personally, even though it's really hard not to take things personally.
Yeah, it is, and I was very angry at my parents because I just thought that there were just so much things I had to figure out on my own. Just a lot of things I didn't know about relationship, friendships, how to open up to people. Just it really kind of set me back in my my young adulthood when it came to like forming relationships, right? Because I just didn't know how to have good relationships because I didn't have a good relationship with my parents. But again, the light that came through it was, again, the people that I met who gave me second chances or pulled me aside and talked to me, right? Just you don't know what you don't know, right? And I was just doing the best I could.
Right. Real quick, I just want to check this. That's 108. Crap, there's some. I got to say one last final thing, and then we got to hop off because I got to go for a 1:30.
Okay.
So it has to do with set you back. Use the term set you back. It set me back. I felt the same way. Well, if I grew up like this, then I could be here by now, right? All this stuff, right?
Yeah.
When at the same time, we also talked about it's never too late, which the grand all-encompassing lesson here is that it's our responsibility to take responsibility. We're in control.
Yeah.
Right? And like set it, I felt the same way, like set me back. I've said that before. Set me back from what? Where am I going? Where am I going?
It's like
what's the rush?
It's like ditching the victim mentality, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like you're powerful. You're a powerful being that is in full control of your life. You know, things might happen that might have not gone your way, but the past is past. In the future, you can write that future as beautiful as you want.
Bingo.
Yeah.
What a way to end a podcast. Hey, how do people get a hold of you? Instagram.
Instagram, sure, Payhu, PAY_WHO. If you resonate with this, drop me a line. I would love to talk to you.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much for watching and listening in. Greg Carlson, Austin Elite Podcast. Stay fired up, folks. Stay fired up. Ciao.